if we had to choose between the gifts that God gives to the paralyzed man today, which one would we pick? If it was either forgiveness of sins or healing of our paralysis, what would it be? If we make it more personal, consider the worst suffering you have experienced, yourself or someone next to you, someone you love. If someone came and gave them the choice, or even worse, gave you the choice to make for them, forgiveness of sins or perfect healing for the moment, what would we choose? We know what the answer ought to be, right? Obviously. We're all going to die sometime, so if I'm sick in this sickness or another one down the road, it's still going to happen. I'm going to die, but forgiveness of sins is forever. We know this, and yet, can we truly see ourselves as we are making that decision? I am lying in the hospital bed with cancer. I know that I have no more than a week or two left. The doctors are clear. Somehow I still have my mind. And the Lord comes to me and says, choices: forgiveness of sins, or you get up and walk. I'm hurting. I'm worried about my family. I just want this to be over. But healing, that's a hard thing to pass up. If we're honest, I think we would recognize this. And this tells us something about ourselves. Or perhaps it only tells me something about myself. At a very basic level, we don't believe in sin. We don't really believe that forgiveness of sins, therefore, is much of a gift. We can't really feel the consequences, not as immediately as pain or loss. Right? Is it only me? Let's set that aside for now. Because the truth is, the Lord does not ask us to choose. Certainly the man today is not asked to choose. He comes to the Lord and asks for help. And the Lord first gives him forgiveness of sins. And when then people criticize him for doing so, he says, you doubt that I have the authority to forgive sins? Here, I'll show you that I have that authority. I will also heal him and raise him up. You're criticizing me for one impossible thing. Here, I'll show you two. And the second one you can't ignore. But this still doesn't solve our problem. If we were given the choice, we would probably take the forgiveness, or rather take the healing, and we wouldn't think to ourselves, I'm giving up on forgiveness of sins. I'm abandoning that. What we usually say to ourselves in these circumstances is, I can save that for another day. I've got healing. I've got time now. I'll ask for forgiveness of sins another day. God is patient. God is gracious. God is loving. All this is true. But the wound in our heart remains. Because at the end of the day, this is not a hypothetical. We make this choice every day in the way we prioritize our time, in the way we spend our energy and our money. We give ourselves over to the pleasures of this world, to food and drink and entertainment and whatever else. Maybe we don't even get much pleasure out of it, but we give ourselves over to the worries of this world. Right? I've suggested before, and I'll say it again, as an exercise, go through and write down how many hours a day we spend pursuing money, pleasure, the approval of other people, entertainment you can add on there. If you don't want to tag it under pleasure, fine. And how much time do we spend opening the door to the Lord of mercy and life, who comes into our midst and calls us to receive forgiveness of sins and everlasting life? It's an embarrassing conclusion that comes up. It shows this problem. Every day we choose the good things of now and we put off till later, not pursuing forgiveness of sins. We don't need to pursue it. God has already given it to us. We put off receiving it. We put off accepting it. We put off opening the door and attending to the grace that has been given to us. It is a good thing that the Lord does not demand of us that we choose once and for all now. Because our habits show that we would choose wrongly. At least, again, my habits show this to me. I would urge that we all consider this. It's the end of the summer, near enough. A new semester, a new church year, a new cycle, a new season is coming. An opportunity is present for us to make a change, to shift our priorities, to recognize that the Lord comes and He does indeed give to us the good things of this life. Every good thing we have comes from Him. But we must attend to the most important thing. We must attend to prayer, to repentance, to confession, to humility, to love, to service, to growth and transformation and change. We must learn to stand within ourselves and look to Christ and walk towards Him on the path of life. This is all the Christian life is. Setting aside a little bit the cares and pleasures of life so that we may receive the King of all. As we are about to say and sing, so let us do. Please stand.